Hello everyone, my name is Ida.
Hi, my name is Dory.
Hi, my name is Daneshjoo.
And welcome to Sedaye Daneshjoo. So for today's episode, we are going to be talking about something that most students often neglect when we are, packed with our schedules, classes, family, volunteering, work. We often neglect and it gets pushed to the side. We are going to be talking about health. And, it can be easy to treat our own well-being as sort of an afterthought. But in reality, this shapes how we function, how we feel, and can impact our day-to-day lives if we neglect it. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I wanted to ask you guys, how easy is it to neglect your own health, and what experiences do you guys have doing that?
I would say short answer is very easy, but long answer is that as a student, let's say you're in high school, you live with your family, you're like in your hometown, and then for college you get into a school that's like in another city, and so you're away from your family when you're in college, or you're in a new city, and it's kind of on you to make those appointments for preventative care, for screenings, dental appointments. It's on you to basically start from the get-go, because chances are when you're at home and living with family that they're kind of forcing you to go to these appointments early, and they're already making the appointments, or you already have an established healthcare worker, or a family physician, for example, or a dentist that you regularly go to. But once you're out of town for 4 years, you kind of have to establish your own network in that new city or town. So, and with what you mentioned, all of the added work, the schooling, the studying, like finding a lot of other things that's new to you in that city, you have to fit this somehow as well. And because in those ages, we feel invincible in a way, the chances are you'll put that aside, and you'll postpone it as much as you can. Unless you're forced, for example, unless you get a sickness and then you have to go to the doctor for that. And I think because of those reasons, it's very easy to postpone things, not schedule things, and not have an established connection with healthcare workers.
Yeah, no, completely. It is super easy to neglect it, especially I resonate with that feeling of being young, feeling invincible. So it doesn't immediately come to mind, having experience, being in clinical settings, I've seen that age isn't necessarily always a factor and doesn't protect you. I know a lot of patients who are young and have scary health conditions and are either going through something. Mental health's also really important as well. And it's, and age doesn't really affect that. And I think just having that, being reminded of that is also important. I think it's easier when you're, working in healthcare and you're seeing that day to day. But also, talking about our schedules, and we're often very busy and we don't have time to schedule appointments. And a lot of times we have classes from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. So how do you guys manage making those appointments with those busy schedules, and do you even find time?
I think that's a very, very good question. It's a big challenge that I personally face myself as well. This specifically was true for me when I was in last year, basically, when I was in second year of medical school, that I was going through clinical rotations, and I was in the hospital for 8-9 hours every day, and I only had basically 1 day off per week. And it's very hard to basically dedicate your one day off in the whole week to another commitment, another responsibility. It's very hard. And I think the way to navigate that is, if it's possible to, if you, for example, know your schedule ahead of time, in the sense that you know, oh, like this week in like December, I'm gonna be free, or this after I finish my clinical rotations, or after I finish this semester, I'm gonna have like 10 days off. So if you know that ahead of time, it's much easier to schedule that in advance. And when you take the time and you actually schedule things, it's much easier to attend them and treat them. It's much easier to treat them as another responsibility, another class basically that you have to go to. It's like a doctor's appointment is like an hour, and if you can treat that as like another class that you have to be present for, then it can kind of change the mindset, and then you can achieve what you want to achieve, basically.
I also want to go more into the definition of health. A lot of it is that time where, like, yeah, you need to go to the doctor, you need to get your screenings. And as Ida mentioned, it's also mental health. But for me, health has three main kind of, it's like a triangle with three main branches. One of the biggest branches is mental health. The other one is your emotional, which goes with mental. But then there's also physical health that we also neglect a lot. How's your body doing? Are you getting enough sleep in there? Are you going to the gym? Are you working out at least 30 to 45 minutes a day? And then the last branch of health I want to mention is social health. And I think all these branches really influence one another. So with social health, are you visiting your family members? Are you doing things that make you happy? Are you spending time with your friends? And they all interchange really easily. So if I'm lacking in my physical health, I haven't gone into the gym for maybe 2 weeks, that's going to start affecting my social health and my mental health. Like, oh, socially, I don't feel as confident going out. Oh, maybe I gain a few pounds of weight. Or mentally, I just feel like so sad that, oh my gosh, like I'm like losing myself. What am I doing? So they really affect one another. And it's hard to get the time to make sure you treat each part of health individually, especially with rotations right now. As Admir said, I have maybe one day off every week. And my weekdays are super, super long, like 5 a.m., sometimes to 6 p.m., sometimes to 9 p.m. if it's a long shift, long call. So it's really hard for me to come home after 9 p.m. and be like, I still need to work out. I still need to talk to this friend who I haven't talked to in so long. I still need to make sure I'm like taking care of my like health appointments, things like that. And it's just really important to have that time. Unfortunately, I do think it's almost like impossible to hit all 3 points of health every day with busy schedule of residency and rotations. You either have to sacrifice from your sleep to get the time for social health or to get the time for your actual health with your doctors and screenings. And then when you do that, then it starts affecting your other points of health.
Like your grades, yeah.
Your grades. So there's always a sacrifice that feels like needs to be made, as unfortunate as it is. But I just keep hoping that maybe one day after residency is done, after rotations are done, I could start like spending more time with like other things that make me happy and focus on different areas of health more.
Yeah. No, completely, I agree. It's difficult. It's that triangle of, you know, you're putting too much time on this one, you're ending up losing something else, and they all equally affect your health in one way or another. Super important to make sure that, you know, you're balancing that. And sometimes if you don't, it's okay, but be aware, try to make adjustments and make that change. Don't be hard on yourself. I think that especially with, you know, being pre-med and you guys are in medical school, we are aware of how important routine checkups are, health screenings are, vaccines are, but oftentimes we neglect ourselves on getting those. So what do you think students can do to make sure sort of they're able to get on top of those, get those done? And why do you think that those, especially I think with health screenings, those are really important. Why do you think those often get neglected, and like what can be done to sort of make sure that we're getting those checked up?
I want to emphasize that, especially being in medical school, seeing patients, and also learning more about different diseases. I see that a lot of the diseases that we basically grapple with in the later stages of life, they start from the adolescence. They start from the young ages. For example, heart disease, for example, like the start of atherosclerosis, which is what ends up blocking arteries in the heart. The start of atherosclerosis is actually about like 10 years or 10 to 18 years. And so you're building up those plaques that are going to end up blocking your artery. So that kind of emphasizes that we need to pay attention to our health, physical health, especially in addition to other aspects that you mentioned. So these just start young, and it's important for us to pay a close attention to these things, and raising awareness about the fact that these are diseases that are preventable is important, because if you know that as long as you keep being physically attentive to your activities, and also if you try to watch what you eat, try to watch what your day looks like, basically, you can prevent these. And just knowing that, personally, I think is going to make a lot of difference in how you approach it. Just because right now, because you feel invincible, you're going to not prioritize that. And if you know and you're aware, you're going to prioritize that.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Dadmir said. There is actually a behavioral theory of health that is the first step to change is awareness. Do you have the awareness that, oh, smoking cigar is bad for me, smoking nicotine is bad for me? Once you have that awareness, you could graduate to the next step, which is contemplation. Like thinking, oh, should I quit? I don't know, maybe. Oh, should I go to the gym? I don't know, maybe. It could be good for me. It is good for me. Then you're contemplating. And then after contemplation is where we actually see change could happen. So a lot of times with my patients, like if they're a smoker or if they're eating a bad diet, I always want to make sure they have the awareness, hey, this is something that is bad for you. And then the next time I see them in clinic, I'll be like, oh, have you thought about quitting smoking? Oh, have you thought about changing your diet? And just having that really makes a huge difference. Same thing goes for us as students. We don't have the time to really prioritize a lot of it, but we should. And we know the significance of it and how important it is for us. The amount of sleep that we get, the 1 hour of exercise that we get, the social health that we get, our academic and mental stress with that. So as long as we know it's important to keep those in check, we do contemplate, hey, maybe I should just spare this 1 hour instead of studying and go out with my friends. Hey, that will actually help me do better academically as well. Or hey, maybe I should just go to the gym right now after the shift, even though I'm exhausted, and work out, because I think that's more important for me tomorrow, to feel energized and feel like I took care of my body. And that actually translates to your physical performance, to your academic performance, and yeah.
Yeah. No, you guys touched up on a lot of good points that I think are super important. I was also thinking that sometimes you can, Dory kind of mentioned it, where you can include your social health in part of your physical health, right? Join a sports club, whether it's running, swimming, surfing, climbing, and I guess that's a good avenue of making sure that you're feeling good about your body while also meeting new people, making new friends. I think, trying to see what your school offers is also really important. So we talked about clubs, but also a lot of schools offer mental health support. It comes with your tuition. Usually you pay for it already and it's there, you can access it. I think that's also important to be aware of what your school offers you for free. Take advantage of those, whether it's the school gym or just, yeah, having like free therapy sessions is important. Or some schools often have their own healthcare that you can, I think that's optional if you want to add that on to your tuition or not. But yeah, take advantage of, you're paying for it, so might as well use it. I think explore it, see what, what maybe this avenue, what it can bring you. And yeah, so I think those are also important things, just making sure that, you're being mindful and aware of your resources and aware of what's happening and what you need to change. And setting realistic goals is also really important for that. A lot of times I think for like big things, especially like quitting smoking, don't have experience on that, but I know for like bigger goals, like having realistic 1 week goals and then changing that, pushing it further is really helpful. Yeah, definitely, like those are really good points that you guys talked about. I like that. I think personally for me, I started my clinical experiences early in college, so I kind of was forced to get all of those vaccinations in and those routine checkups with that as part of like working in healthcare. So I've been, I guess, fortunate in that regard. But my personal experiences with ignoring or neglecting my health come from, so after I transferred to San Diego, I started experiencing severe chronic pain. I've had it a while since I can remember, but I remember sort of during that transitional period, I felt it more and more. And one thing I did was I would brush it aside until it got to a point where it was very severe. And I felt maybe there's something wrong. And that's what the first time it popped up into my head. And then I decided to go to the doctor. And navigating that experiences can be difficult, especially if you don't know what's happening. I ended up finding out that I had endometriosis. Well, if you don't know, it essentially means that I have abnormal menstrual cycles that are often painful, heavy, and sometimes I think, especially, I'll go into a bit more women's health. I think it's easy for us in general to neglect that or to think that, oh, okay, menstrual cycles are supposed to be painful. And I think sometimes those concepts and those notions can make it easier to dismiss what we're experiencing. And I have a lot of my friends who have similar health conditions that, they went through the same thing where they sort of put it aside, ignored it, their schedules are busy. But yeah, it's really important to get checkups, get screenings. And Mary, you talked about that a lot. And yeah, I just want to emphasize the importance of that. And it can be difficult, especially when you're trying to balance school, making sure your grades are intact and not being sure what's going on. But yeah, definitely very important to get those done. I would say that I was wondering, how have your perspectives changed on preventative healthcare, being medical students and also your own personal experiences?
Yeah. I could go ahead and talk a little bit about that. For me, when I started my freshman year of undergrad at USC, I was so stressed. Mentally, I was like, I can't do this, it's too much, everyone knows what they're doing, I don't know what I'm doing. I would study well above 5 hours a day, even though I would say, don't do that if you're listening at home. I was just too anxious about it, and I'm like, I need to get good grades, I need to get into a good medical school after this. And I remember not sleeping because of how much I would study, not going to the gym because of how much I would study, and just not talking to my friends a lot anymore because I'm like, I need to study. And that actually translated to me having worser grades. So I would see my exam score and I'd be like, why did I do so bad? I studied, I know all of this information, I just couldn't apply it well during the exam, like what's going on? And then one of my professors actually introduced me to this book called The Happiness Advantage. And it's actually scientifically proven, if you're happy, you are way more productive, your work becomes more successful. And once she told me about this, her name is actually Dr. Emily Rose. She is an ER doctor at USC, so she's watching. She changed my life a bit, and she taught me that happiness makes a huge difference in your productivity, your outcomes, So once I read that book, I actually stopped studying. I studied for like maybe 1 hour a day, maybe less than that. I'm like, oh, I already know this. I shouldn't focus too much on worrying about this and making sure I get every question right. Let me put an hour right now, go to the gym, take this workout class that I love, like, let's do some Pilates today. Let me take another hour, go get my nails done. After that, let me get dinner with my friends. And I would do this every day. Make sure you have like 1 hour to study, or like don't neglect different areas, continue studying, but like don't go above and beyond. Like, why? And then suddenly my test grades, straight A's, A plus, A plus, A plus, and I'm like, this is so crazy, because even though I put in so much less effort into studying, the fact that I was happy, the fact that I was seeing my friends, getting sleep, getting my exercise in, made me do much better on the exam than I would have ever done if I studied for so many hours. So happiness advantage taught me a lot. There's also like a fun thing with that. In the book they said there's a study, if you put a pencil in between your teeth and it forces you to smile, you automatically get happy.
Oh.
Like emotionally, it releases happy endorphins and stuff. So,
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I've heard of fake laughing until you actually start laughing,
Yeah.
and that's sort of feels silly to do, but I think it works for me.
It works, yeah. And once you like prioritize different areas of health, that helps you be more successful overall.
Yeah, going back to your question and the importance of like preventive medicine, like as we're advancing and we're doing a lot of research in like the different fields within medicine, we realize that a lot of the diseases are related to our habits. A lot of diseases are related to our early beginnings, and when we're kids, a lot of things start from then, and there is a lot of studies that we can actually change the trajectory if we build those habits, and this was very eye-opening for me personally. That yeah, like for example, I mentioned heart disease. Yeah, like we think about heart disease in a person who is like 40 years old or at least 40 years old and older. But no, we should start thinking about it when we're in our 20s, because that's when we can have the biggest change and change the whole trajectory. So that was my experience personally, and I think it's very helpful for us to be aware of these conditions and like learn these habits early on, so that we can make that change for ourselves.
Yeah, no, those are great points. I have a friend who, I believe it was running 30 minutes a day can significantly help your cardio health overall. So I know a friend who's been doing that and it's tough to get into running. Personally, I have a hard time just imagining myself do it, but props to them for being able to do that. And now they're in love with running, and it's like part of, their social life and something that makes them happy. And yeah, I just think we talked on a lot of good points today. I think overall just, listening to your body is really important. Knowing when, you pass the threshold of this isn't just, I'm sore from walking too much, or this isn't just a regular painful cramp or anything like that. And listening to your body, taking advantage of resources around you, being aware of your schedule is something we also talked about. I think, like, for example, like President's Day is like a day that we have school off, but a lot of clinics are open. A lot of doctors' offices are open, so that's like a good time to make appointments. And yeah, just being aware of that. So thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I appreciate you guys for sharing all your experiences and being very open about your health. And for our viewers, thank you so much for staying in tune, and we hope to see you next time on Sedaye Daneshjoo.